Growing a business is kind of tricky right now. Supply chains are squeezed, tariffs and trade policies are dynamic, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. You need clarity to come out on top. Without it, you risk falling behind. If only you could hop in the DeLorean and see the future, right? Thankfully, there's NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite has real-time forecasting to help you move ahead with confidence. This is your AI-powered business management suite and the #1 cloud ERP. Trusted by over 42,000 businesses, NetSuite brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. And with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. You spent months building towards launch day, but when the clock hits 0, your site crashes. Bots swarm, and loyal fans rage on Reddit. That's not good. Fanfare was built to stop that. Fanfare is the drop platform made for high-pressure moments, stampede-proof infrastructure, verified waitlists, and bot filters that actually work. Instead of refunds and rage, you get retention and revenue. And that sounds great to me. Your next launch shouldn't be a gamble. Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook and learn how to bulletproof your drop at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, that's fanfare.io/playbook.
It seems like we kind of have productivity wrong. We think that productivity and getting a lot done is about hustle, it's about grind, it's about discipline, it's about grit. And all of those things are important in some way. But fundamentally, we as humans do the things that we feel like doing. No one ever struggles with procrastination watching Netflix because it's fun. It feels good. And if the thing feels good, we're so much more likely to actually do it. You never need to be like, oh, I've got to really discipline myself to watch that TV show or play that video game. So how can we take that idea and apply it to our work? How do we make our work feel good so that it energizes us?
How would you like to have the most productive year ever? I think we all want that, right? And how do we do things better? How do we optimize what we have going on? And how do we make sure we don't burn out while doing all that, right? Solving this problem, this puzzle of productivity has become a problem that has persisted for centuries, forever. It's not a P word, but anyway, I'm really happy to invite my good friend Ali Abdaal, a very massive YouTuber who is the world's leading expert on productivity, the most subscribed to expert, if you will, who focuses specifically on productivity. And he's got a brand new book that just came out here the end of 2023. It's the perfect book, in fact, for 2024 and beyond, or whenever you're listening to this, because I feel like he solved the problem. He solved the problem of how do we actually feel good while being productive. And we talk about those principles today. We talk about the 3 Ps that you need to learn about. And then selfishly, and I know for many of you as well, I ask questions about his process for YouTube and some of the things that he's doing to make sure he stands out, but also is still remaining an expert amongst a lot of the competitors that are coming out and coming for him and literally copying him. So we talk about a lot of those things, but Ali's been on the show before. He's incredible. We'll link to those episodes from prior episodes so that you can hear a little bit more about his background. But today we just dive right in. So here he is, Ali Abdaal, the final episode of 2023. And this is session 745. I hope you enjoy. Here he is.
You're listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, a proud member of the Entrepreneur Podcast Network, a show that's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later. And now your host. One thing he knows he needs to get better at is regularly sharpening his kitchen knives. Pat Flynn.
Running a business means legal questions are inevitable. Is this contract or agreement solid? What can I do if a client won't pay me? Am I set up properly for taxes? Well, rather than trying to navigate all of this on your own or searching endlessly online, imagine having a law firm on your side without the high hourly rates. That's exactly what Legal Shield's small business plans offer. With Legal Shield, entrepreneurs get access to real legal support, contract reviews, collection letters, guidance on business formation, and even help handling IRS audits. Members can book consultations, upload documents through the app, and work with a provider law firm that understands small business laws in your state. You also get proactive help on tax and trademark questions so you can stay ahead of legal risks. And if a client delays payment, Legal Shield can send professional collection letters to help you recover what you're owed, all for a fraction of what traditional attorneys charge. Go to LegalShield.com/SPI or call 833-570-9980 to learn more and get big business legal support without a big business budget. That's LegalShield.com/SPI. Do you know the secret to businesses that are scaling faster than ever? They're using Upwork to tap into a diverse pool of skilled freelancers across various industries. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts who are ready to help you take your business to the next level. I've personally used Upwork myself and can vouch for it. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. With no cost to join, you can register, browse freelancer profiles, get help drafting a job post, or even book a consultation. From there, you connect with freelancers that get you and can easily hire them to take your business to the next level. Upwork makes the entire process easier, simpler, and more affordable with industry-low fees. Post a job today and hire tomorrow with Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help you grow your business. That's Upwork.com. Again, Upwork.com. Ali, welcome back to the SPA podcast, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is like super surreal because I remember when I did a binge through like literally dozens and dozens of your episodes around 2019. And I think that's when Superfans came out. And you would always do like the little plugs for Superfans and like, hey, if you pre-order, you get the free audiobook and stuff. And I was always like, oh, one day when I write a book, it would be the dream to go on Smart Passive Income because I've just learned so much from your podcast over the years. So thank you.
And now you have a book that has just come out at the time that people are listening to this. Congratulations. What was, in one sentence, what was the book writing process like for you?
In one sentence, it was like a marathon where every step involves overcoming some sort of limiting belief and imposter syndrome deep down.
That sounds like a crazy battle. What were some of the more challenging parts of the book writing process for you?
Yeah, I started working on the book when I was 26. And, the publisher approached me saying, do you want to write a book about productivity? And initially I was like, all right, cool. I'll just like repurpose some of my online courses and stuff. And then I got started with the process and I realized writing a book is a way more involved process than just repurposing some videos. And then I started getting all the stuff around like, what do I know about productivity? Like, I'm not Elon Musk. Like, why would anyone listen to me? Why does anyone care? And our mutual friend Azul, who you introduced me to very kindly back in like 3 years ago now, a lot of working with him, he's a writing coach, was around overcoming the emotional barriers to doing something like this. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of analogies with, like, I speak to so many kind of creators who want to start out making YouTube videos or starting a blog or starting a business. And it's all the same emotional hurdles. Like, why would anyone care what I have to say? Are people going to laugh at me that I have the audacity to do this thing? And what Azul, our writing coach, was saying is that most of what being a writer is and what being a creative is overcoming these emotional hurdles.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. And credit to Azul. He helped me on my writing journey. I'm just so happy to see that he's helped you as well. So shout out to you, Azul, authorswholead.com if you want to check him and his partner Steve out. But it's out now. How does it feel? I mean, you are so prominent a video creator. What was it like working in this medium and now to see your work out there in the world?
Honestly, it was really scary. Like, books have this kind of cultural prestige attached to them. And so the thought of writing a book, like some people say that, oh, a book is just a string of blog posts. It's like, okay, but putting a blog post on the internet is very different to putting a book out there on Amazon and in stores where you can open yourself up to negative reviews and things. And so like seeing like the kind of the physical copy and seeing it all come together is very, very surreal. But also like, I think what's interesting about it, so, you and I make a lot of YouTube videos. And when you make YouTube videos, you see immediately what the process of going from a raw product to a final cut looks like. Like whenever I'm recording a video, even though I've been doing it for nearly 7 years now, I still like and I make so many mistakes along the way, and I record for an hour and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. And then it goes off to our editing team because we now have editors, which is great. And then they polish it up and they cut out all of the mistakes. And then it becomes this finished product where I watch it afterwards and I'm like, oh, this is actually not bad. This is actually pretty good. And I'd never experienced that process before and with books, because when I submitted the first draft, I was like, this is awful. No one's going to read it. Why is it so bad? But through that dozens and dozens of layers of editing, I now see the polished final product. And so that makes me really appreciate that, oh, wow, back in the day when I was comparing my first draft with, for example, your final draft, And I was feeling, oh my God, Pat's such a good writer. I can't compete with this. I'm not even trying to compete, but it's just like, I couldn't see the gap between here and there. But now seeing the layers of editing, I'm like, oh, so much happens in editing. And that takes the pressure off future books and future things that I write, because I'm like, I can just write a crappy first draft and then the editors will sort it out and then we'll just delete all the bad stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that speaks to just this idea that we often compare our first draft to somebody else's final draft, whether we're creating YouTube videos or blog posts or podcasts, whatever it might be. So I think that's a great lesson for sure. What does it mean to have feel-good productivity? What's the premise behind the title of this and what's it all about?
Feel-good productivity. Like when the publisher said, do you want to write a book about productivity? I was like, yeah, sure. And they kind of asked this question of like, what's been your one secret? Because, for context, for people that are not familiar with my story, I went to Cambridge Medical School, I trained as a doctor, and then while working full-time as a doctor, I grew my YouTube channel and my business, thanks to smart passive income. And then we ended up being sort of multi seven-figure business. And people kept on asking, like, how did you have the time and the energy to do all of this stuff while you were working full-time? And if I had to drill it down to one thing, it was that I always found a way to make my work feel good, feel enjoyable, feel fun, feel meaningful, feel fulfilling, all of that stuff. And initially, I didn't think you could write a book about how to make work feel good, because it's like surely everyone knows that. But then after I started diving into the research and reading every other book on the market, it seems like we kind of have productivity wrong. We think that productivity and doing things and getting a lot done is about hustle, it's about grind, it's about discipline, it's about grit. And all of those things are important in some way. But fundamentally, we as humans do the things that we feel like doing. No one ever struggles with procrastination watching Netflix. No one ever struggles with procrastination playing Pokemon Go, because it's fun. It feels good. And if the thing feels good, we're so much more likely to actually do it. You never need to be like, oh, I've got to really discipline myself to watch that TV show or play that video game. So how can we take that idea and apply it to our work? How do we make our work feel good so that it energizes us? And there's so much evidence that shows that when work feels good and when it's fun, and we can certainly talk about some kind of practical ways to make it do so, when work is fun, when we feel positive emotions, it makes us more productive, it makes us more creative, it makes us less stressed, and it gives us more energy to apply to our work, but also to apply to the other important areas of our life. And so that's a very long-winded way of saying that the title, Feel Good Productivity, is the destination, but also the journey. Like, we all want productivity that feels good, that's the goal. But actually, the way to get there is to try and make whatever you're doing feel good in the moment. We all have to do things we don't want to do sometimes, but there is always a way to make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more enjoyable. And that's really been the secret to my productivity and what I'm hoping to kind of teach people how to do in the book.
So it's not just let's remove all the extra stuff in our life that we don't like doing and only focus on the things that are already enjoyable. But actually, we can take the things that we might have to do or even forced to do and restructure them or do something with them so that we actually have some joy in that. How does one actually make that happen?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good point. Like, I'm not saying just stop doing all the stuff that you don't want to do, because most of us are not in that position. If you're like a serial entrepreneur and you have your 8 personal assistants and your whole team, then you can, in fact, just offload everything that you hate. And that is a very good strategy once you're already a millionaire, basically. But for everyone who's not there yet, and even you and me, for example, we have big successful businesses. We still have to do stuff that we don't like doing sometimes, like filing taxes and talking to the lawyer and the accountant and all that kind of stuff.
The worst.
All of that fun stuff. So the goal is, how do we find a way to make everything that we're doing feel a little bit better? Now, in terms of practical advice here, there's like 3 things, 3 P's that are the secret. And those are the first 3 chapters of the book: play, power, and people. So which of those sounds interesting? And we can just sort of dive in and riff on those. Play, power, and people.
So play, what's in the play section?
Yeah, so play is interesting because essentially, you've heard that thing of, if you can make work feel like play, then you'll never have to work a day in your life. And people, sometimes scoff at that. It's a bit cliche. How can work really feel like play? But in doing research for the book, there was so many stories that I found of entrepreneurs and really successful athletes and Nobel Prize-winning scientists who, when asked in interviews about how they got to where they are, they land on this idea of play. Like Richard Feynman was, Nobel Prize-winning physicist, and he was burned out after working on the Manhattan Project and everything like that after World War II, and his wife had died, and he was in a really bad place, and he just lost the joy of physics. And one day he saw in the Cornell University cafeteria, some student was chucking a plate up in the air, and he noticed that the Cornell logo on the plate was like wobbling at a different rate than the rest of the plate. And he was like, why is that logo wobbling at a different rate than the rest of the plate? And initially he was like, it doesn't matter. And then he kind of remembered that the reason he got into physics, the reason he became a professor, the reason he helped build the atomic bomb was because he found physics fun. He found it enjoyable. And so he said, you know what, I'm just going to play around. I'm just going to write some equations that model the spinning of this plate. And those equations led to like some theory that ended up helping him win the Nobel Prize. And there have been loads of other Nobel Prize winners that fundamentally arrive at this idea that if you can find a way to approach your work in the spirit of play, it becomes way more enjoyable, way more energizing, and you're also way more productive. There's sort of 3 ways to do this, and we can kind of talk about them just to be a bit more specific. So essentially, play happens. If we think of like, what are the things that feel like play? It happens when you're fully engaged in something, but where the stakes are low enough. So let's take the stakes point for a minute. People sometimes ask, okay, how do you make work feel like play? A really big way to do that is to just lower the perceived importance of your work in your own mind. Lower the seriousness. We all have a tendency to take all of our work just way too seriously. And there's an amazing phrase from the philosopher Alan Watts that says, don't be serious about your work, be sincere. Now, we've all played video games with people who take it too seriously. It's just kind of boring. It's just like, it's a bit of a drag, bit of a drain. But it's also not fun playing a video game or playing a board game with someone who doesn't take it seriously at all. If they're just like, whatever, it's just a game, who cares? Like, that's not fun either. What you want is someone who plays sincerely. You want them to really put their effort into it, but also to recognize at the end of the day that it's just a game that we're playing. For me, whenever I find I'm getting too stressed out by my work or too frantic or overwhelmed or anything, I try and remind myself to dial down the seriousness, and that helps lower the stakes. So like, for example, when Roger Federer is playing the Wimbledon tennis final, he's not approaching that in the spirit of play. The stakes are just too high, especially when he's the defending champion. And it's too easy to approach a work with that sort of sense. So lowering the seriousness is a great way to help play, help create the conditions for play to flourish.
Can you speak to the aspiring YouTuber out there listening to this right now who hears that, but then goes, well, my videos have to be perfect and I have to take this seriously in order to make it work? How do you play still?
Yeah, so this was a big part of how I was able to stay consistent with videos for like 2 years before my channel really took off, which was that I would try my best to think. I had a little Post-it note on my computer monitor, which sounds a bit cringe, but I still have that to this day on my desk.
Oh, I have a ton around me. Don't worry about it.
Oh, nice. So my one says, what would this look like if it were fun? What would this look like if it were fun? And, when it came to video editing, I remember back in the day, I was working full time. I'd get home from work at like 7 p.m. and I'd have 3 hours until 10 p.m. when I'd have to sleep to wake up the next day for the day job. And in those 3 hours, I found a way to make video editing fun. And so the ways that I would do that, for example, I really enjoy the Lord of the Rings soundtrack. And so I would use Concerning Hobbits from Lord of the Rings as the background music for my YouTube videos. And only at the end, when the video was finished, would I swap it out for some royalty-free thing because I didn't want to get a copyright strike. But all the way through, while I'm editing my video, I've got this really nice tune from The Shire with like Frodo and Bilbo and Sam playing in the background. And it makes it feel more whimsical. It makes it feel more fun. I was also trying to find ways to, like every video, I was thinking, okay, what's a cool thing I can do in this video? What's a way I can experiment with a transition or experiment with new sound effects or experiment with some kind of new title format? And that made it fun because generally things are fun. Things feel playful when we feel as if we're making progress. And you can find a way to do that when editing videos as well. And I think the other main thing for this is like a lot of this seriousness comes from, just thinking that our work is so important and thinking that people are going to care. But one of the big unlocks, I think for a lot of creatives I've spoken to, is that basically no one cares. Like there's so many people are held back by starting a YouTube channel or starting a blog. I certainly was. By the fear that my friends and family will judge me. Like, what are people at work going to say? It's like, no one cares. Everyone's got their own life. People are fundamentally selfish. They want to watch stuff that adds value to them. The algorithm, if you're making YouTube videos, will present your video to the right people at the right time. No one cares. Your friends and family do not have an opinion on this. They're too busy worrying about their own lives. So all of those things really help lower the stakes, but also help to find the fun in what could otherwise be a pretty boring activity, which is sort of just like chopping and editing videos.
And that strategy of just realizing that truly nobody cares is also great if you're going to go out in public and film. That was something that stopped me, especially in the Pokemon space. I go out to card shops and I trade in person, and putting the camera on worried me. But then I realized I'm not that important. I'm not that important that a person's going to stop what they're doing, think about me while I'm doing this thing. They're just going to maybe look at it really quick and then move on by and then not even think about it anymore. So that really helped me, and I think that's a great iteration, especially for those of you who are getting interested in getting involved with YouTube, and obviously you are a YouTube expert. You've helped so many groups of people through your program and your academy. I've been a special guest in those, and I truly enjoy being in front of those very, very enthusiastic future YouTubers. And many of them have gone on to do very, very well, which is really amazing. Now, let's go back to the playbook, if you will. You had mentioned play, and obviously you should all check out the book, Feel Good Productivity, to get more of this. But you had mentioned people was the third one. What was the second P that we can dive into right now?
The second P was power. So that's a fun one.
Power.
So power is essentially one of the things that really drives fulfillment and kind of positive emotions in our work is feeling like we are powerful, feeling a sense of power over our work. Now, this is not power in the sense of like being a totalitarian dictator. This is a sense of power as in you feel personally empowered. And so that's basically a combination of ownership and improvement. If you feel like you've got ownership or autonomy over something, that really drives something called intrinsic motivation. So motivation is like there's sort of two different types. There's extrinsic and intrinsic. Extrinsic motivation is when you're doing something for the sake of something else. I'm writing a book because I want to get lots of sales. I am making a YouTube channel because I want to make money. Those are extrinsic motivators, and those don't feel good. They feel good up to a point. It's like if the thing is working, but it's really hard to sustainably do something over the long term if you're doing it for extrinsic reasons. On the other side of the coin, we have intrinsic motivation, which is where you're doing something for the sake of doing the thing. You're just doing it because it's fun. You're doing it because you enjoy it. We are intrinsically motivated to hang out with our friends. We are extrinsically motivated to go to a networking event. That's why people tend not to enjoy networking events. And one of the massive drivers of intrinsic motivation is a sense of autonomy, a sense of ownership, a sense that you are in control of your own destiny. And this is why people love decorating their bedrooms and redesigning their houses and having a nice background for your YouTube studio or whatever. When you feel as if you have autonomy over what you're doing, it massively moves the needle. Now, at this point, people sometimes ask me okay, but what if I'm working? What if I've got a job to do? Or what if I'm a student and I don't have a choice in what subjects I choose? And there's sort of a couple of ways of thinking about autonomy. One is, even if you don't have autonomy over what you're doing, you almost always have autonomy over how you do it. One way of doing that, like when I was working as a doctor, I had to write lots and lots of boring discharge summaries. This is when a patient's been in hospital for a long time, and you have to write a massive letter explaining to their local doctor, their GP, why they were in hospital and what happened to them and stuff. And that, it takes sometimes minutes, sometimes a long time. And I had to do these every day. And this kind of gets a bit boring after a while. And so I didn't have autonomy over what I was doing. I couldn't suddenly say, well, screw this. I'm not going to write these letters because that's my job. But I had autonomy over how I did it. And so I found ways to make it a little bit more fun for myself. I had Pirates of the Caribbean music playing on my Bluetooth speaker in the background. No one cared. It made my life better. I found ways to incorporate little jokes into the letters. And my goal when I was writing the letter was I want to be really clear and concise and really help the doctor on the other end understand what happened. But I also want to make them laugh or smile a little bit. And so occasionally I'd make reference to, one of the patients had a cat and was always talking about the cat. And I'd say something like, and Mr. Smith cannot wait to go back home to his cat. Just something basic like that would make that's a bit unusual. Like you wouldn't expect to see that in a discharge letter, but it's a real human on the other end of it. And they had a good time. And actually, I got a couple of written compliments that GPs sent to the hospital being like, oh, wow, this is the best discharge letter we've ever seen. Because I took autonomy over how I did the thing. And so the challenge for people there is that if you're ever doing something where you feel like, it's a bit of a drain, bit of a drag, ask yourself, how can I take ownership over the process? Could I do it faster? Could I do it slower? Could I do it in a more interesting way? Could I do it in my own way? And whenever we do things our own way, it profoundly boosts our intrinsic motivation and makes anything that we're doing, however boring, become way more fun.
What are some examples that you know about or even your students have used to make editing YouTube videos more fun or more sort of on their own? It feels like that is a major barrier for people with the creativity that they have in themselves and putting it out there in the world. What are some unique and fun ways? I know you said putting Lord of the Rings in there, having something playing in the background, music, sure. Are there any other creative ideas that you might have or examples that people can pull from listening to this?
Yeah, so one of my friends, Aaron, he has a YouTube channel called Mr. Who's the Boss. He's got 16 million subscribers on YouTube. He's been on YouTube for 10 years, something absurd like that. The way he makes editing videos fun, and now he has a team who helps with this, is that they always put inside jokes into the videos. So there will always be some sort of, that Rick Astley song, like Rick Rolling people, he would always incorporate that somehow into his tech videos. And now when I watch a Mr. Who's the Boss video, I'm sort of like, oh, interesting. I'm sort of waiting for that to be a little... And this is stuff that you talk about in Superfans as well. It's like those little icons and rituals and things that you can sprinkle into your content that makes your Superfans like love you even more because they're in on the joke. So what sort of inside jokes can you incorporate into your stuff? The way I would do this back in the day is I would try and incorporate specific language. Like I'd try and always use the word waste man in a video, or try to put in some sort of Harry Potter reference. I know our editors these days now try their best to shoehorn any Harry Potter reference that they possibly can into the content, because it's become a bit of a brand thing for the Ali Abdaal YouTube channel. And it also makes it way more fun for them, because then now they're being creative and thinking, can we use that clip from Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire and just sort of splice it in like 30 seconds in? And, you know, the fans will get it and other people will just be like, what? Why is there a Harry Potter clip? So there's little things like that you can do to make it a little bit more fun.
It reminds me of two things. Number one, there's a TikTok weatherman that's become viral because he incorporates lyrics from famous songs into his weather reports. So in the beginning of the video, he shows that somebody had asked, like, hey, put this song from Ice Cube in there. And then he'll show actual news clips of him doing the weather and then incorporating those lyrics into the way he presents the weather, which is genius. And of course, now he's famous and people watch him just to like look out for those things. And I'm sure that makes it fun for him to do the boring weather every single day. So like you said. And then for me, I remember when I was on the speaking ring for a while, I would always meet up with the same kind of groups of people when talking at these events. And we created something fun just to kind of make it interesting and different, which was we each got the same secret word that we had to incorporate into our presentation that only we knew. And then we'd talk about it later and see who's the most creative in incorporating it. And then eventually the audiences started to catch on that, like, why did every single person here say the word marshmallow in their talk? Anyway, it was super fun. And so I love those little things. They seem on the surface like it's just like a silly thing, but anything that you can include to make the thing you are knowing that you have to do a little bit better or just have some joy into it can go a very long way, right?
Yeah. And like, I think it's also worth mentioning that it's not just about the joy. Like finding a way to make your work fun actually makes you more productive and more creative. And there's a really cool study that like really kind of kicked this whole branch of research off. It was in the early 1990s, and some psychologists, they got different groups of people into a lab, and they asked them to do these sort of creativity challenges where you have to like organize boxes in a certain way and, you know, that kind of stuff. And one group, they would give a little piece of candy to them just before starting the thing. And the other group, they wouldn't. And they were saying like, you know, what's the difference? And they always found, you know, sometimes it was candy, sometimes it was chocolate, sometimes it was playing upbeat music, sometimes it was getting them to watch like 30 seconds of an inspiring movie, anything like that. They found that the group that was primed to feel more positive emotions, that was primed to feel good, they were more creative as well. They were solving the creative task way faster and coming up with more divergent kind of suggestions, which is a test of creativity. And then they were like, okay, cool, that's kind of interesting. They did this other thing, which was cool, where they told people, you know, they brought them into a lab and they told people, okay, you're about to give a public speech in 2 minutes. Everyone hates public speaking, so that would spike their heart rate and they would feel like, they would start to feel stressed. Then they would split the group up into two. One group, they would show an uplifting YouTube clip or whatever. And the other group, they would show a sad YouTube clip. And the third group, they wouldn't show anything at all. And they even found that the people who saw the uplifting video, their stress markers lowered. Like physiologically, their heart rate went down, their breathing rate went down, the sweat and skin conductance on their skin went down. And they were like, wait a minute, like just helping people feel good with like literally 30 seconds of music or a 30-second video clip makes them more creative and productive, but it also physically reduces their stress levels. Wow, that's sick. More of us should be incorporating these sort of things into our life.
Yeah, that is, wow, how simple it is just to kind of maybe put on a hype up song before you start work, just like how an athlete before they go and take the field does, right?
Yeah, all these athletes have their own routines, they have their own methods, and you know, they're not trying to feel good. They're trying to optimize their performance, but they have found that feeling good helps them optimize their performance.
Yeah, that is so great. Let's talk about people. You had mentioned play, power, and now people. And then I do want to ask you about your YouTube routine and kind of how you're approaching your videos now, because selfishly, I'm always learning from you with regards to that, and I know the audience wants to know too. But let's talk about people. What do you mean in terms of people and productivity?
Yeah, so finding a way to connect your work to people in some way is another sort of huge lever to make your work feel good and therefore to be more productive. So I found this that when I was in medical school and trying to study for my exams, the exams are kind of boring the first few years. You're having to memorize all these tedious pathways and stuff. You know, you don't really want to do it. And I found a real hack. And the hack was I would go to the library with friends. It was really simple. You know, most people are in the library on their own, but I would bring a posse of like 5 to 8 of us to the same library. And we would do the Pomodoro technique together. So we'd work for 25 minutes, Then we'd take a 5-minute break and I don't know, watch a YouTube video or something. And then we'd work for 25 minutes again. And we would do these sort of 25-minute little cycles. And then every 2 hours, we would take a lunch break or a coffee break or whatever, and we'd come back. And there was something remarkable about just doing the same thing, doing the work, but just doing it with people around me. It made it way more energizing, made it feel way, way better. And I wasn't distracted. I was just like, I was so in the zone, to the point that I made a WhatsApp group and I was sort of started coordinating this every single year, and people wanted to join. We'd go to different libraries and different coffee shops. And then during the pandemic, as I was writing this book, I was like, this is, it was feeling a bit of a drag. And I found this Zoom workshop called London Writers Salon, where every day, 4 times a day, they have this completely free Zoom call where you can join it with 100 writers from around the world.
Wow.
And someone will host it and they'll spend 5 minutes like spieling about like some quote from Hemingway or something. And then you just sit in silence and do your writing for 50 minutes. And then there's 5 minutes at the end to just kind of do a wrap up. And I was so productive. I was sitting in my room in the middle of the pandemic with no one around me. But because I knew that I was on this Zoom call with like these 100 other people, it was completely free, didn't have to pay anything for it. It made me way more focused and made the work feel good. It felt like I was part of something. And so the challenge to people there is, whenever you're doing something that you think is a bit boring, how can you find a way to bring people into it? They don't have to be doing the same thing, but even just being around people. And so co-working spaces are a thing. I was just in a WeWork earlier just now because it just makes everyone feel good. And yeah, maybe some people might say, oh, but I focus better when I'm on my own. It's like, okay, but if you're miserable when you're on your own, is it really worth it? I would happily take a 2% reduction in focus for the sake of a 80% boost in my mood, because that boost in my mood is going to impact my work as well. And it's also going to make me feel great.
Yeah, my initial thought was, well, now you have a chance to be distracted. Now there's more input coming in from different, not just people, but the environment that you're in. I typically think of productivity as you're going to shell up and kind of like nothing else in the world is out there kind of potentially able to distract you. You're kind of confined and able to do that. But that makes sense to me. Well, why do you think scientifically that might work when you surround yourself with other people? What's going on there, psychologically?
Yeah, so one of the theories that the scientists have come up with is called relational energy. So we've all had this experience where there are some people where you hang out with them and you leave feeling totally drained. And there are other people you hang out with them and you feel really energized. You can call those like penthouse people or basement people. Do you feel like you're on the penthouse or do you feel like you're in the basement? And a bunch of, there was this like really big study they did in some big corporation where they sort of mapped out like how energizing different people were. They called this an energy map. And they found that like the people who were energizing, like gave energy to the people around them, they were rated the best managers, they were the best bosses, they were more likely to get promotions, they were better at their job, people wanted to work with them, people wanted to hang out with them. There's something about being around the right sorts of people that it sounds kind of woo, but like really does energize us, and we've all had that experience. And so one of the theories around that is that when you're surrounded by other people, like you just benefit from this electrifying effect of the group. Yes, if everyone in the group is a bit of a downer, is a drain, it's going to drain you. But usually when you've got enough people around, there's like 1 or 2 people that are energizing, and just being in community with others. Like, we're social creatures. We've evolved to be in community with the people around us. Back in the day, it was a survival advantage. If you were the sort of person who could get on with people around you, you'd be more likely to survive because you'd be invited into the tribe and wouldn't get mauled by a lion. All of these things are theories that scientists have come up with for why working with people around us is just way nicer than we're just sitting there working on our own for most things.
Of course. And through that, surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, who will lift you up, right? Like you said, it's not just being around people, but being around the right people. And this is why communities like the ones that you host and, with SPI Pro on our end, these are great places where people can come together to know that you're going to be surrounding yourself with people. And even if you're just kind of working together, we often have like co-working moments in our communities as well. Like they do work and people are productive. That is amazing. So everybody definitely check out Feel Good Productivity, available on Amazon, or do you have another place that you'd rather drive people to?
Yeah, no, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Waterstones, anywhere. You can check out our website, feelgoodproductivity.com, and that has like all the links.
And your book came out on December 26th. December and the holiday season is like the toughest time of the year for books and publishing and all that stuff. But with your audience and, I want to do my part to help here too. We can give it a real shot at any of those lists if that's important to you, but it's going to get in the right hands. And I think this is a perfect book, especially at the beginning of the year. Everybody's wanting to start off on the right foot, and you have that opportunity there. I want to know, because your YouTube channel has... The last time you were on the show, it was growing and growing very well. I mean, it was set out on a great path, and now it's just gone exponentially even higher. I think you're about 4 million subscribers now, which is amazing. I would love to know your process for selecting a video topic and how you take that video topic idea and turn it into a worthwhile video for you to publish.
So I think it's worth prefacing that a big part of my approach to YouTube is trying to think about the long term. Like when I started YouTube, I knew I wanted to do this for a long time because like A, that's how you become successful. But B, when I think of if I won the lottery, if I had 100 million in the bank, whatever the thing is, I would still make YouTube videos. And I think, okay, cool. I enjoy making YouTube videos. And I would also think, what is the sort of channel that I would love to see? What's the sort of channel that I would love Pat Flynn to have, or Tim Ferriss, or James Clear? Like, what would I like to see? And I landed on the idea that I want a YouTube channel where I can sit down and I can share something that I've learned and I can speak from the heart. So that's kind of the constraint that I'm approaching YouTube with. I know that for me to play the long-term game, it's not sustainable for me, and it's not that enjoyable to try and create a Netflix documentary out of every video. I'm a nerd at heart. You know, I'm not that entertaining. I knew that like doing a prank themed channel or doing a challenge themed channel or doing a lifestyle themed channel wasn't going to be for me. I knew I just wanted to sit down and talk about something. So within that context, I have tried my best to optimize the process. So essentially, usually it starts off with some sort of idea. I think it would be cool to do a video about Pat Flynn's book, Superfans, because I read it and I thought it was really good. And I've got creators in my audience, so I want to do a video about the book. The next step is, okay, what is the title? Because the title of the video and the thumbnail of the video, as you know, are like more than 70% of the value of the video just comes from the title and the thumbnail. And so then I will try and think about the title. Okay, I can't just call it Superfans because that doesn't quite make sense. The 5 steps to build an audience who loves you. Okay, 5 steps to build an audience. 5 steps to build an audience for beginners. 5 ways to stand out on YouTube. I often think of these as listicles. So I quite like listicles as a format because they're very easy. They feed nicely into my thesis that if I just had a list of 5 bullet points, could I just talk about them? And then that makes it fun to film a video. So for your book, Superfans, I'd also be thinking that generally beginners make up 100 times more people in the market than experts. So I don't want to frame the video as how to take your channel from 1 million to 5 million because like there's not that many people who are going to watch the video. I want to aim it at beginners so there's something for everyone. So 5 ways to build an audience in 2023. 5 ways to build an online audience in 2023. Okay, that's a reasonable title. I would then go through the book. I would go through my Kindle highlights for the book because I read everything on Kindle. And I'd be like, cool, what are the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points I want to make here? And then I would just give them a heading. And now I'm ready to record the video. And the way I approach it is that I see the heading and I just talk. And I just talk and I talk and I talk. And that's my skill. I can just talk about stuff. And then when I was editing my own videos, I would chop out the stuff that was boring. Now we have editors, they chop out the stuff that's boring. And that's really been my approach. And this approach is optimizing for long-term sustainability. Some people might say, oh, but you really want to optimize retention and you really want to think about like changing up the format and leaving the desk and doing this and that. And I'm like, okay, maybe. But for me, it's like, I'm always asking myself, how do I make this fun? How do I make it energizing? How do I make sure I'm able to do this 10 years from now? And that's the format that I've landed on.
I started watching a video of yours recently, and it was, I think, 9 things you wish schools taught you or something like that. And I play the video, and it's like, number 1, you're already into it. There's no intro. What's your thinking behind that?
We've been experimenting with that recently. Like, if the title is self-explanatory, like we did one the other, like 9 things I wish I knew about YouTube. We were experimenting with what does it look like if we just go, oh, okay, number 1 is no one cares. Number 2 is this. Number 3 is that. And the comments are so interesting. They're like, oh my God, a YouTuber who respects my time. YouTube very kindly invited me to speak to their CEO, Neil Mohan, a few months ago. And, you know, it was me and like 5 or 6 other creators. And we went to the YouTube office. It was very fancy. And we asked Neil, like, what are the features that people most request from YouTube? And he sort of laughed and he said, the primary thing everyone requests is a get to the point button. And that's why they started using timestamps and those little graphs that show how much people watch. Like, audiences want you to get to the point. And so we thought, okay, let's experiment with this. And we have seen a bit of an effect, but honestly, it's not been huge. So intro versus no intro, hook versus no hook. We've run the numbers on this and we haven't seen a significant difference, annoyingly. I wish I could say, oh, that made all the difference. But, you know, we're just experimenting and seeing what works.
And I think that's the biggest lesson here is that you are trying something and you're going to look at the data and then you're going to see what happens. And I appreciate the honesty of just, we don't know yet. But that's how you improve. You take something that you think would make the video better or more digestible for your audience or more beneficial to your audience, and you try it, which I think is great. You also have some incredible visuals that go along with your videos. I mean, more than I remember. Where did you get the inspiration to do that and the movements? It's a very, like, they're almost even coining it like the Ali Abdaal kind of style of filming. And I see a lot of other creators getting inspired by that. Jay Klaus being one of them, I can tell with his shorts and stuff. And it's just like so engaging, but obviously there's other people doing this because it's just there's so much movement and a person who might be just starting out on YouTube might not be able to get there. So number one, how are you doing that? But number two, how could a person who doesn't have the team or doesn't have the resources create a similar effect or get a similar outcome in terms of just engagement in your videos?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to be honest here. So so all of this is done by the team. The team is amazing. The mandate for the team is, how do we make world-class videos? But how do we make world-class videos within the constraint that I just want to sit there and talk to a camera? I don't want to go out into the world. I don't want to do anything funky or fancy. I just want to sit and talk.
That is your rule.
That's my rule. It's like, cool. So now our editors are like, sick. That's our constraint. Within that constraint, how do we blow people out of the water?
I see.
And we have hired, so whenever we hire an editor, we get hundreds and hundreds of applications and we pick one person. So we have pre-selected our editors to literally be the best in the world. And they have mini competitions with each other and they're like kind of sharing new things and trying to do new stuff.
That's really neat.
That goal of continuing to push the needle, continuing to push the envelope, results in like the Ali Abdaal signature style. And then people make tutorials on how to do it.
It's like Casey Neistat. It's very similar. He had a very specific style, and then he's started to get copycats. And not like how do you feel when people are doing the Ali Abdaal style on their videos?
Yeah, honestly, I don't mind it at all. I think I also took this away from superfans, or either explicitly or implicitly. One of the things that you've talked about certainly in the past is building a moat around your brand, building like a sort of competitive advantage. And initially, when I was new to YouTube, I wasn't thinking about that. I was just like, great, let me just try and make videos. But now that I'm like one of the biggest personal development channels in the space, I'm kind of playing defense. It's like when you're, the champion and other people are trying to compete, you have to continually be on top of your game. And so the question that's always in our mind as a team and for me is, how do we keep on building the moat around our stuff? What we want is, if someone sees an Ali Abdaal video and thinks, you know what, I want to get into productivity, I want to become a productivity YouTuber, we want them to think twice. we want to just blow them away with the value and the depth and the research and the editing for them to think, oh, okay, this is what it takes. And that's how I think we can stay relevant and stay, quote, competitive. Even though it's not competition, but like, it's kind of fun to be like, how do we build the moat? So honestly, it's very hard for a complete beginner to replicate the style by design, but there have been a few plugin packs and a few tutorials, but I think the goal is not to replicate the style. The goal is to find your own style. Because if you try and replicate Casey Neistat, the best you will be is a Casey Neistat copycat. But if you create your own style, like, for example, Ryan Trahan did, or for example, like Mr. Beast did, or like Peter McKinnon does with his vlogs, or like you do with your Pokemon content, like that's your own signature style. You're not trying to copy someone else. So find your own style and, take inspiration from others. It's
funny because we've noticed a lot of other Pokemon creators now doing challenge videos with voiceovers, which was never done before now. And many of the comments are, this is just a Deep Pocket Monster video on your channel now. It's really interesting because similarly, it's like, and what I was getting at before was, you're creating that moat, you're using your unfair advantages that you have to be like, this is how we do it here in this space. And if you want to come in, great. You got to find a different angle though, right? And so, and that's great for everybody else coming in. That almost forces them to think a little bit more deeply about how they're going to come in. And that's of service to them, actually. So, the more that you kind of stay in your lane, the more that your lane becomes clear, and then another person can find their own lane, because I'm sure you are open to other people coming into productivity. It's not like you are like, I own this space and nobody else can come in, but this is the way we're doing it, and we're going to make it clear that this is the way that we do it.
Yeah. And I love it when other people are in the space, and I'm basically friends with everyone who does productivity content, and we all like to promote each other and help each other out. So very keen on other people joining the space. It's just that you have to kind of find your own path through.
Yeah. And it took you how long, would you say, since you started YouTube to get to that point where you're like, this is where I sit in this world of YouTube and I have a voice here, and this is what I am known for? How long did it take you from your first video to that point?
Oh, my first video was in 2017, and it's only earlier this year, 2023, so 6 years down the line, that I feel a bit more settled. Yeah, I think part of it was actually writing the book, because the book, is a book about productivity. I think I'm now the world's most followed productivity expert, and so it was kind of embarrassing, but it took the publisher to say that for me to finally believe it. Where they were like, "Ollie, I think you're the world's most followed productivity expert." I was like, "Really? What about Tim Ferriss? What about?" And they're like, "Well, depending on how you slice the pie, you actually are." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." And the fact that the publisher has put it on the title, on the front cover of the book, makes me much more chill with doing it, because there's a lot of imposter syndrome. I don't want to be too big-headed about
it's
it.
literally on the top of the cover.
Yeah.
which is. Do you feel pressure having that title put on you now? Like, everything you do now has to be quote unquote productive. And if you're going to be doing something new, it's like, if you don't take a productive route with it, maybe you are an imposter, or somebody might say something. Do you feel any pressure now as a result of that?
Honestly, not really. I used to not like the word productivity, because I was like, oh no, but it's not about work. And I didn't used to like the fact that people would call me a productivity expert, because I'm like, what is a productivity expert? I found ways to get things done, but it doesn't make me an expert. Recently, I've started to embrace it more, because for me, productivity is using your time well in a way that's intentional and effective and enjoyable. Intentional, effective, enjoyable. And so my goal for literally everything I do is to be intentional with it, to be effective, and to enjoy it. And I'm like, you know what? Actually, that's a pretty good way to live. I had an evening yesterday where I was just playing video games. I was playing Baldur's Gate 3. Fantastic game, by the way. I don't know if you've tried it. But to me, that was productivity. It was intentional. I intentionally decided, you know what? I'm going to take the evening off, and I'm just going to play a video game. It's not intentional if I'm sort of trying to do work and I'm scrolling TikTok at the same time. So I just don't do that, because it's a waste of time. But I'm very intentional about the things that I do. And I just think that's a good place to be.
I love the theme of enjoying just kind of being a part of everything that you do. And I think that's really important. We often kind of forget that, or don't even look for opportunities for joy and enjoyment in the work that we do, even if we have to do that thing. I love the tips that were offered today. I love the insight into the YouTube strategy and the talk about the moat. Ollie, this has been a tremendous honor to have you back on the show. I am so appreciative of all the shout outs that you've offered toward my end and to our brand and super fans and all that stuff. I mean, I'm so happy to see you continue to thrive. And I'm very, very excited for everybody who's going to pick up your book who has yet to be introduced to you. So congratulations. And one more time, where can people go and grab your book and check out your work?
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, just again, I've been a Smart Passive Income fan since 2017, when I first got into making money on the internet and all that. So actually, even before then, when I had my first business. So thank you for literally for all the things that you do. Your income reports from back in the day were just ridiculously inspiring. I know you stopped doing them now. We were doing income reports, and now we're going to stop as well, because at some point it becomes a bit much. But yeah, just thank you for all the things that you do. And if people vibe with this and they want to hear more about the book, check out Feel Good Productivity. If you just search it on Google or in a bookstore, or go to feelgoodproductivity.com, all one word. And you can find links to all of the retailers and all the funky bits.
I love it, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And best of luck with the book.
Thank you.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Ali Abdaal. Again, you can check out his book anywhere you can get the books, over at Feel Good Productivity. Just look that up, or look it up on Google or Amazon. And obviously check out his YouTube channel if you haven't already. It is an amazing and an incredible resource. I pull inspiration from it. And just the quality, it just continues to rise, like we just talked about at the end there. But I'm very grateful to have him on. If you'd like the links to the prior episodes that he was a guest on, so you can get a little bit more into his story and where he came from, just go to the show notes page, smartpassiveincome.com/session745. Again, smartpassiveincome.com/session745. And that does it, everybody. Woo! That does it for the end of the year here. But again, no matter when you're listening to this, I appreciate you so much. Here's to an amazing, happy, healthy, profitable 2024, and a very productive one without burning yourself out. And cheers to you. Cheers to you, my friend. Thank you so much. Hit that subscribe button on your way out, and check out another episode if you like. Until the next one, all the best. And once again, Happy New Year.
Thank you so much for listening to the Smart Passive Income podcast at smartpassiveincome.com. I'm your host, Pat Flynn. Sound editing by Duncan Brown. Our senior producer is David Grabowski, and our executive producer is Matt Gartland. The Smart Passive Income podcast is a production of SPI Media and a proud member of the Entrepreneur Podcast Network. Catch you next week. More people dream about building their own business and being their own boss rather than retiring early. but a majority of them never even take the first steps to register the business. Why? Because starting a business can feel overwhelming. With legal forms, paperwork, finances, it's a lot. And that's where Taylor Brands comes in. Taylor is a complete business builder designed to make launching your business simple and stress-free. You can register your LLC in just minutes, keeping your personal and business assets separate from day one. And from there, you can get access to everything you need to get off the ground, from legal documents, licenses and permits, invoicing and bookkeeping tools, and even a 100-day business coaching program to help you hit the ground running. You'll also get a free personalized business plan, branding tools, and so much more. And of course, our listeners get an exclusive 35% discount to get started. Just head to taylorbrands.com/SPI. That's TAILORBRANDS.com/SPI. Stop dreaming, start building with Taylor Brands. I get it. You want to grow your business, but selling at scale feels overwhelming. You're drowning in complicated funnels, creating different lead magnets, or constantly posting on social media. And that gets exhausting fast, especially when you're trying to sell to hundreds or thousands of people. But what if you could sell at scale with a simple, powerful quiz? A score app quiz or assessment asks your audience key questions and gives them instant personalized results based on their answers. Your audience gets to know where they are now and shows them the steps they need to hit their goals. You can set up a quiz in minutes using Score App's templates and have a powerful lead magnet that'll do the selling for you. The best part is your audience actually wants to take this quiz, and you build huge amounts of trust before you even make a single offer. No hard sales, no chasing leads, just value at scale. Get 50% off the first 3 months using the discount code SPI. Just head to scoreapp.com/SPI. Again, that's scoreapp.com/SPI.